Imagine being the best player on the planet. The man who scored a World Cup final hat trick, walking off a pitch with 0 shots on target, 0 chances created, 11 lost balls, and then losing your mind so badly you shove and kick your own opponent's goalkeeper like a schoolyard brawl. That's not a nightmare. That's Kylian Mbappé, yesterday. In a World Cup semifinal, he will want to erase from memory forever. Because here's the brutal truth nobody in France wants to say out loud. Spain didn't just beat France. Spain dismantled them. And Mbappé, the man supposed to carry this team into history, cracked under the weight of it in the ugliest way imaginable. Let's set the scene properly. France versus Spain, a World Cup semifinal, the whole football world watching. First half is tight, tense, both sides brave enough to play out from the back under pressure, genuinely gutsy stuff from both goalkeepers and defenders. But then comes the moment that changes everything. A penalty, awarded against Luca Digne, and honestly, a soft one. The kind of call you wince at in a semifinal of this magnitude. VAR didn't intervene, so let's assume it stood correct. But even accepting that, Digne will be gutted, and so will Luca. Wait, no, forget that. This is Digne's heartbreak alone, and you could see it eating him alive for the rest of the half. Oyarzabal converts, Spain leads, and suddenly the entire rhythm of the game flips in Spain's favor. And here's the part that should really worry French fans. France thrives on chaos, on transitions, on hitting you on the counter. They needed to score first. Instead, they conceded first, and everything Spain does defensively from that point on becomes suffocating. Adding insult to injury, William Saliba, one of the best center-backs alive, pulls up injured in a completely harmless situation. No contact, no pressure, just bad luck at the worst possible time. France is bleeding from every direction. But don't let anyone tell you this was purely misfortune. There's a moment in this match that should be talked about for years. Mikel Merino, Mikael. Look, let's just say it plainly. That reckless French foul that should have been a straight red card was somehow left unpunished. The referee let it slide, clearly trying to preserve the spectacle of a World Cup semi-final rather than blow it apart with a red card. Fine, controversial, debatable. But here's the thing. Even with that let-off, even with a man advantage effectively gifted to them, France still couldn't find anything. Nothing. The second half wasn't a football match anymore. It was a execution. Spain suffocated France, refused to let them breathe, refused to let them counter. Rodri, back to his imperious best after a rocky season, dictated everything from deep, making the calm, correct decision every single time the press came. Cubarsí and Laporte ate French forwards alive, and Lamine Yamal, only days after posting his Euro semi-final goal against France just hours before kickoff, a post Spanish fans quietly called a bad omen, did it again. Yamal won the penalty that sealed it. He buried France. Again. This is now officially a full-blown psychological complex for the French national team against this kid. And that's when Mbappé lost it. Down 2-0, sensing the tournament slipping away, he charged into Unai Simon during a pressing situation. No intention of winning the ball, purely out of frustration, kicking the goalkeeper in the shin and shoving him. Yellow card. Ugly. Genuinely one of the worst individual performances of his international career, and by his own admission afterward, technical errors everywhere, a level nowhere near a World Cup semifinal. Compare that to Didier Deschamps, who instead pointed fingers at the referee. Two completely different explanations from the same camp, and neither one covers up the obvious truth. Spain was simply better. Spain played like a club side wearing national jerseys, organized, ruthless, superior in every phase. Kylian Mbappé has now missed a World Cup final for the first time in a tournament he actually played in. And Deschamps? He's reportedly heading for a well-earned vacation after the third-place match, with Zinedine Zidane already confirmed by Fabrizio Romano to take over the French national team. Full circle, in the strangest way. Now, if you're loving this kind of raw, insider football breakdown, hit subscribe because trust me, We're just getting started, and the drama doesn't stop with France. Let's jump across the continent because Arne Slot might be walking straight into his next job. Bookmakers have him as the overwhelming favorite to take over the Netherlands national team, with odds so short they're basically confirming it before it's even announced. Louis van Gaal is the only real alternative, sitting at much longer odds. Ronald Koeman's exit looks all but done, and the irony here is delicious. Slot, fresh off a rough season at Liverpool, is somehow being viewed as the more attacking option compared to Koeman, a manager whose caution against Morocco with 5 defenders got the Dutch bounced in embarrassing fashion. Slot isn't perfect either. He leans just as prudent in the biggest games. But with the Dutch Federation seemingly committed to a homegrown coach, and with Robin van Persie, John Heitinga, and Ruud van Nistelrooy deemed too inexperienced, and Erik ten Hag already ruling himself out, Slot is genuinely the best of what's available. And here's a fun financial twist. Because Liverpool are apparently willing to cover part of Slot's Dutch national team's salary, according to The Telegraph. Which sounds backwards until you realize Liverpool still owe Slot around 10 million euros in compensation. Paying a slice of his new salary actually saves them money in the long run. Everybody wins, allegedly. Now let's talk about a team that deserves way more credit than it's getting, Senegal. They had arguably the best World Cup run by an African side this tournament, only to be cruelly eliminated by Belgium after leading 2-0, firing 19 shots, racking up nearly 3 expected goals, and still losing to a Belgian comeback built on less than 1 expected goal. Brutal. But the real story is what happened before a ball was even kicked. Senegal's federation couldn't afford to pay for a training session at their own national stadium. Their flight to the U.S. got delayed, officially over paperwork, but insiders point to something far messier, a total breakdown of trust with head coach Pape Thiaw, who nearly got fired right before the tournament and, as it turns out, actually did leave the setup just days ago. Thiaw arrived in the United States without an active contract, his previous deal having expired months earlier, salary payments falling behind, scheduling decisions made completely without his input. He threatened not to fly. He threatened not to coach the Norway match unless a new contract was signed hours before kickoff, and even that new deal, by all accounts, was only ever meant to keep him quiet long enough to finish the tournament before showing him the door. That's the story behind Senegal's brave, unlikely run. Chaos, disrespect, and a coach who held the whole thing together through sheer stubbornness. Meanwhile, in Spain, Florentino Perez isn't done fighting the Negreira case. Real Madrid's president is convinced Barcelona's domestic dominance this century is tied to payments made to a former referee committee vice president, rather than, having Messi, Guardiola, Xavi and company. Spanish football authorities can't act. The statute of limitations has expired, but prosecutors haven't found proof Negreira ever used his position to benefit Barca directly. Doesn't matter. Perez wants financial records, audits, everything, and he's pushing UEFA directly, demanding Barcelona be stripped of every trophy won during Negreira's payment period. If that actually happens, it would be unprecedented in modern football, a genuine earthquake. Whether it's justice or a vendetta, you decide, but Perez rarely backs down once he's committed. On a lighter note, Tom Holland revealed on The Tonight Show that he once messaged Erling Haaland, inviting him to dinner, and got completely ghosted. Haaland later explained, refreshingly honestly, that he just didn't know who Haaland was and didn't feel like replying to a stranger. No arrogance, just a striker who apparently doesn't watch movies. Meanwhile, Haaland returned home from the tournament with a stuffed raccoon holding a gin bottle, having dropped $10,000 on cowboy souvenirs in Dallas, and reportedly covered the bill for his Belgian teammate Leandro Trossard, too. Speaking of Trossard, he's officially left Arsenal for Besiktas in a €20 million deal, a move that feels premature given how effective he's been as a game-changer. Gabriel Jesus could follow him out the door on loan to Fenerbahce, clearing wages for Arsenal to chase Julian Alvarez, who reportedly prefers Barcelona but is being blocked by Atletico from joining a direct rival. And over in Munich, Bayern have decided against selling Kim Min-jae after all, backing his improved form, while reportedly exploring a move for Jules Koundé, whose dip in form ironically makes him available now rather than later. And then there's Harry Kane, 25 million euros a year at Bayern, a Ballon d'Or favorite, arguably in the prime of his career, and yet Al Hilal has reportedly already made contact through his representatives. Remember Benzema's 50 million euro base salary when he left for Saudi Arabia as a reigning Ballon d'Or winner? Kane could be offered similar, maybe more. Sporting ambition versus generational money. History says we know which one usually wins. So tell me, was Mbappe's outburst pure heartbreak, or proof he simply couldn't handle Spain being better? Was that penalty legitimate, or a semi-final decided by a soft whistle? Drop your verdict in the comments. Argue with each other. I want to see it. And if you want more of this kind of unfiltered football breakdown delivered straight, hit subscribe, because this tournament is nowhere near finished producing chaos. See you in the next one.